always with me is my friend and yours, Ben Scurria. Hi, Ben.
Hello, friends. Hello, Creep Mistress. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you this fine summer's eve?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm ready to get freaked out. I'm ready
Awesome.
to hear some creepy stories. I
I
love
love
that
it.
intro. I know we've talked about it before, but like that intro just gets me hyped.
I know. Me
It's
too.
so good.
Hey, Allison. Hey,
Hey,
Tina.
everybody.
So good. So tonight we are actually talking about a topic that you, Ben, have been interested in quite some time. Every time I'm like, what should we talk about? You almost
Yeah.
always say, without fail, reincarnation.
I love
So
reincarnation.
yeah. So do you remember how you were first introduced to the subject? Do you remember like
Yeah. So I mean, I'd always heard, stories and stuff. But I think I shared like way back in Midnight Creepout, like number one or number two. I shared a passing story about a kid in Chicago uh, who had memories of being in a disco club fire there, and I just that whole story freaks me out. If people don't remember, I can talk about that a little later too. It's like one of my favorite stories, and like that's the one that like really began to get going, and then I began to like look into it. And there's so many examples of especially young children having these past memories and memories about things that they in no way could know about, and that stuff really is fascinates me. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, why do you think it fascinates you or resonates with you so much?
Because I like this idea still of because I don't believe necessarily in like fully I don't think it's like our soul going back into somebody else's body personally, but I do think it tends to, at least in my mind, reinforce this idea that like we're all just made up of all this crazy matter and energy, like you know what I mean. And so
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
when somebody dies, they get dispersed, and then some of them get used for the next person. I feel that way in some weird sort of way, right? And so then, yeah, I think that stuff probably irons itself out, which is why a lot of the times kids sort of like lose it as they get older. I think part of
Yeah.
it is they iron itself out, and part of society irons it out. And if you don't use a part of the brain, if you don't use a muscle that's there, it's going to atrophy. And I think that's also part of it. Like I think our brains can do
Yeah.
crazy shit, and we don't do that.
So people who have researched this topic, it seems like there are some common themes, right? Like kids start to talk about it super, super young. They say things like full sentences and like vocabulary words that they shouldn't know, super, super young. And then by the time they turn 5, they kind of stop talking about it,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they really only talk about it if they're like directly questioned about it. Other Dave Thomas says, Tina's faded. Everybody get turned.
Woo woo.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah. So, yeah, I think like you were saying, I think people are interested in this subject is one, because people who love creepy stuff will obviously love this shit, but also because, like you said, it kind of gives you this this nice feeling of, you know what? Maybe we don't actually die,
We're
maybe
all
we come
connected.
back, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of which, okay, there is this YouTube channel called Kurzgesagt. Have you heard of it? Have you seen
No.
it? Oh God, Ben, you would love it. It's so good. Everybody in the chat, have you heard of Kurzgesagt? If you have not, so it's German for in a nutshell. And what they do is they take like big idea topics and boil it
How do
down
you
into
even
like
spell that?
Kurzg Kurzgesagt, I think.
K
Kurzgesagt.
Kurzgesagt.
Something like that. If you put that in, I bet
Yeah,
it'll come
yeah.
up.
There it is.
And so they talk about all kinds of like space stuff and climate change, all kinds of stuff. But they did this one, and the animation's really cool, and they have like all this merch on DFTBA. But they did this one episode called The Egg, which is an animation of a short story about how we're all connected. And every time I watch it, it brings me to tears. It's about 10 minutes long. And if you like reincarnation, you are going to love this video. Ben, you got to watch it before you go to bed tonight. Go straight from here to the egg.
I'm going straight to the egg.
Go straight to the egg. You heard it here first. Okay, so thankfully, I think this episode.
It's only 8 minutes long, everybody, so I can do that, and so can you at the end of this. Go watch it.
It's very good. It's 8 minutes long. But they have a lot of good stuff. Anyway, okay, so this week our topic is a little bit more uplifting. So you should be able to sleep after this week's episode. No promises about next time now. So we've got some real good stuff. I'd love to jump right in. Ben, I've got 3. How many do you have?
I just have one sort of general topic and then one specific story in that general topic. So just one sort of.
All right, let me tell.
Why don't you go first?
Let me tell this first one. This first one's not, it's not like amazing. So here, I'm going to share. And once again, as usual, I have a PowerPoint.
Love it.
It would not be. Oh no, look what I've done. It would not be. What is happening here? Well, let me click this other screen. It would not be a Midnight Creepout if I go away, hide. Okay.
Top right corner.
There we go. I got it. I've got it now. We're good now. Okay. Reincarnation. I could not for the life of me find the name of this piece or the artist who made it. So if you know, let me know.
It's a great piece. And
it's
I'm
fun,
surprised
right?
when I searched reincarnation stories that it didn't come up in the Google image search. I'm a little irked at Google, but whatever. That's a different topic.
I'm sorry. Okay, so this first story is about Sam Taylor, who apparently reincarnated from his own grandfather.
What?
Which puts a whole spin on that whole paradoxical idea of going back in time and killing your own grandfather. So 1.5-year-old Sam Taylor was so probably not actually Sam Taylor, was getting his diaper changed by his father. This is just a photo they had in one of the web pages that was talking about it. When he looked up, so he was getting his diaper changed by his father. He's 1.5 years old, 18 months. When he looks up at him and says, "When I was your age, I used to change your diapers."
What?
This struck both his mother and father as a very odd thing for a child of his age to say, but they didn't think about it a whole lot more until about 2.5 years later, when Sam's paternal grandmother died. This prompted his parents to go to get out old family photos to show to Sam. When he saw a picture of his paternal grandfather, who he had never met, Sam pointed to it and exclaimed, "That's me." Which I assume is why they made this photo.
There he is saying that's me.
There he is. That's him saying that's me. And then I also included this photo of a random boy and a grandfather.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So he also saw a picture of his grandfather's 1949 Pontiac and said, "Hey, that's my car." Sam was also able to identify his grandfather as a child from a grammar school class photo. Out of 27 children, 16 of them being boys, Sam scanned them with his finger and stopped on his grandfather's face, again saying, "That's me." Sam, again, definitely not them. Sam also described details about how his grandmother used to make him milkshakes with a food processor instead of a blender. And so when he said this, his mom was like, "What are you she didn't make it with a food processor." She went into the closet and was like, "No, you mean the blender?" And he was like, "No, the food processor on the counter." And then she asked his dad, the mom asked the father, Sam's father, and he was like, "Yeah, she used the food processor." Weird, right? But he'd never seen this happen because by the time Sam was born, his grandmother had had several strokes and hadn't been in the kitchen.
You don't like grandma near the blender after some strokes. It's a bad idea.
Not the takeaway I was hoping for, but I'll take it. And then it gets a little creepier. Okay. So he also told his mother, I used to have a sister, quote, she turned into a fish. And his mom was like, what? Right. His mother asked him who turned her into a fish. And he said, quote, some bad guys, she died.
Whew.
Sam's mother was taken aback by this because in life, his grandfather's sister had been murdered and her body had been dumped into a river.
And there's no way the kid would know that.
Right. And he didn't. He did not know that. And in fact, they never told him about that because they thought it was too graphic.
Right. That makes sense.
Tell him. Yeah. So real creepy. You know, that's a short one. Real creepy.
Real creepy. So and then he stopped talking about it once he got to a certain age.
I don't remember. I read a lot of these.
That's what they do. No, I mean, that's
but they
exactly
do, yeah.
What it is. Yeah.
I mean, they do. But, I mean, so some of them do. Most of them do. Some of them don't. Some of them remember and, like, keep it going for a long time. So, I don't know. Real creepy. I don't know. Real creepy. Okay. Here's another.
Love that one.
Here's another real crazy one. Then you do yours, and then we'll do the craziest one that I have.
Sounds good.
Okay. So these ones have actual real photos. Okay. This is Nazi, for real. Okay, so Nazi Aldanaf, who apparently was reincarnated from Fouad Assad Kadaj. Nazi Aldanaf, here he is, for real, was born in 1992 in Balkhmeh, Lebanon. At 18 months old, again, right, the last kid was also 18 months old when it started. And, like, okay, so I don't know how much you know about kids.
I mean,
okay. But here, I'm going to stop the screen. I'm going to share something else. I'm going to share. Okay, it's going to get weird here for a second, but hold on. Okay, so tell me when you can see it.
Yep.
These are 18-month-old children, right? So when you Google 18-month-old, this is what comes up. I cannot imagine this child, right? Like.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a young child.
It's a young kid to like say a whole sentence, right? Like this child saying a whole sentence like that is kind of weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So at 18 months old, he began making strange statements like, quote, I am not small, I am big, and quote, I carry 2 pistols. He also talked about carrying hand grenades and, like, knowing how to use them. And his parents were like,
What?
Right. Like, they were like, why does he even know this word, hand grenade? Right? Like, so crazy. Oh, what about out-of-body experiences after anesthesia and out of like near-death experiences? We got to do NDEs sometime, too. But anyway.
Other Dave Thomas says he thinks this kid just sounds like an idiot, but I don't. He sounds real smart to me. He said a whole sentence.
I know,
18 months.
Yeah. What kind of sentences were you saying, Dave Thomas, at 18 months? I want to know that. Get your mom on the line right now.
Wake her up.
Yeah, wake her up. So over the years, Nazi gave more details about the supposed past life. He talked about all the weapons he used to carry, how he had a friend. Yeah, but it makes sense later is what's fucking crazy, okay? So how he had a friend who was mute and only had one hand, and that he had papers at home regarding money that was owed to him. He also said, quote, my children are young and I want to go see them, end quote. Nazi also told his mother that he wanted to go home and that his wife was prettier than her. What a fucking asshole. What a shitty little kid. I guess he told his older sisters that the same, you know, my wife is prettier than you. And that she had like a prettier eyes and a prettier mouth. That's what he said. Fucking hilarious. So
that's good.
Yeah. I mean, at least kids are honest, right? That kids are known for being very honest. So at least there's that. Okay, so when asked about how he died in his past life, he said, quote, armed people came and shot at us. I also shot them and killed one. We were shot and later taken by an ambulance, end quote. Nazi insisted that his hometown was Kabershamun, a small town about 11 miles away from where he lived. He was relentless in asking to go there and even threatened to run away if his parents didn't take him. I know, right? When he was 6, his family finally took him there. He gave them detailed directions.
He's like, here's how you get there.
Right? He's 6. Okay, so he's 6 years old at the time, right? And he's giving them, detailed directions. Like, okay, you're in the car and you go down this road. And, like, there's a fork in the road, you're going to go right. And then you got to get to the street. Okay, and so then they get to the street, and, like, it was, like, muddy, right? Because, like, someone was, like, washing their car. And so, like, they had to stop the car. And Nazi jumps out of the car and, like, runs up the street to look for the house. So when he finds the house, his father asks a man who lives there if he knew anyone who had been shot. He began giving details, and the man said the description matched that of his late father, Fuad Assad Kadaj, who had died in 1982. So 10 years before Nazi was born. Fuad had been a bodyguard for a religious leader at the Druze Center in Beirut, which is like a religious group. On July 22nd, 1982, 3 men broke into the center and shot Fuad and 2 other men to death. Wild. So he was a bodyguard. Like, that's why he had weapons. And, like, that's why he's talking about, I carry 2 pistols and I carry grenades. Right? So Fuad's son got his mother to come out of the house. So this is, Fuad's late wife, his second wife, in fact. And they brought a picture of Fuad and asked Nazi who it was. He said, "This is me. I was big, but now I am small." what a fucking
He's so okay with it.
Yeah, I feel like, but I don't think he was. Because when you read the detail, okay, so this guy from Iceland, a parapsychologist, researcher from the University of Iceland, heard about Nazi and, like, went to Lebanon a bunch of times with an Arabic interpreter and interviewed him a bunch of times. He wrote an 18-page paper about it. And when you read some of the details, Nazi sounded pissed. He was like, I miss my wife. I miss my kids. I want my money back. Where are my friends? Like, where's my brother?
My money back.
Yeah, he was, like, kind of pissed.
He didn't realize that he had been reincarnated?
Well, like, he knew, but he was pissed about it, right?
Yeah,
he was like, I don't want to live with you guys. I want to go back to my old family. He was pissed. So upon further questioning by Fuad's son and wife, Nazi was able to describe intricate details about his past life as Fuad. He showed them where in the house he had kept his guns and even uncovered a hidden cache that they didn't know about.
What?
Yeah, he was able to find a hidden cache of weapons that Fuad had hidden and the family didn't know about.
Yeah. Could you do that other day, Thomas? I don't think so.
Yeah, right? Seriously. Well, he's 6 at this point. So
maybe,
who knows?
Maybe he could have.
Maybe Dave could have. He described the time his wife had fallen and dislocated her shoulder, and he had to take her.
I'll hide a cache of guns, and then next time you're here.
We fucking might. So he talked about the time his wife had fallen and dislocated her shoulder, and he had to take her to the hospital. There was, like, another story about one time where he came home drunk and she, like, kicked him out. He asked her to see the barrel in the garden where he used to teach her to shoot. Like, he knew all this kinds of crazy stuff. So Fuad's brother came out and he was like, how do you know that how do I know that you're my brother? And he was like, because I gave you a gun. And this kid's 6 years old. And he's like, okay, what type of gun? And he told him, and I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it was, like, a very specific type of gun that's kind of rare and is, like, special in Lebanon. And there's no way this kid would have known this, like, specific make of gun, right? Wild. And so because of all of this stuff, we haven't seen all your nooks and crannies. Oh, Dave.
I don't know if that's a threat or a promise.
I know, right? So because of all this, Fuad's family firmly believes that Nazi is his reincarnation and like have like taken him into the family. Like obviously he still lives with his like other family, right? His like, you know, his real family. But like they visit and they're like buddies and like fucking wild. And I didn't find anything about him like later in life, like, you know, where is Nazi now?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. But fucking crazy, right? Can you imagine someone being like, oh yeah, I was your father and I fucking know all this shit about like gifts I gave to the family and crazy accidents that happened. Wild.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide whether, I guess it wouldn't, like it would freak me out at first, but then I think it would be pretty awesome, right? Like what a great, like,
yeah.
If I could talk to my loved one again, sort of, and be like, hey, do you remember that time, you know, or just to be able to reminisce or to have them tell me something that's pretty cool.
I know. Okay.
Is that for your next story?
Oh no, these was for this one, but that's okay.
No, let's take a look real quick. Let's just,
okay, so this is Nazi for real.
For real. Yep.
And then this is Fuad. So that's it. That's all I've got. It's just pictures of them.
But they do like, look. I mean,
kind of,
I guess. But I just love that he knew. I love that he knew stuff about him, like that he wouldn't have been able to know otherwise. And like that's so you talked about knowing facts and also about speaking in a way that not necessarily a kid wouldn't talk, and those things lead me to my story a little bit, which is about a kid named Thomas Nolan, and this story actually has to do with 9/11. So there's actually a whole bunch of like 9/11 reincarnation stories, and a lot of them I think have been debunked. There is a documentary about a kid called Cade who believed that he was the reincarnation of the falling man, the guy who was falling straight down. You know, the famous picture.
Yeah.
And he so there's like a little documentary on YouTube about that. But that story has been semi debunked, or at least there's people as he tells the story, like inconsistencies have come up. Yeah. But there's one story, the story of Thomas Nolan, that nobody can explain, and I think it's pretty cool. So this woman, Rachel Nolan, had a 4-year-old son, Thomas, and one day Thomas was like playing with a fire truck, and she was like, "Oh, do you want to be a firefighter when you grow up?" And he said, "I don't just want to be a firefighter. I've always been and already am a firefighter. I used to get up in the morning, go to work, and in the evenings I'd come home and take off my fire proximity suit." Now, this is a really weird thing for a kid to say, a fire proximity suit, right? Like, kids don't talk like that.
Right.
But she still was like, okay, I guess, you know, he might have heard it somewhere, read it in a book or had it read to him and whatever. But he kept going on, and he would talk about driving the truck, or not driving, how he didn't drive, but he got to sit in the front. So that made him either like a captain or a lieutenant. And he knew that the truck, he told his mom that the truck was a Ford Johnson R8. This is a 4-year-old kid, which is exactly the model of New York firefighter use for their trucks. Huh. And he said that he still had friends that were buried there, like, which is like super, super creepy to me. And he continued to talk about it for a couple of years, and then around 7 or 8, he stopped talking about it unless he was asked again, like sort of you said. But for like 3 years, like he knew a bunch of things about this thing that there's no way that he could have known, right? And spoke in a way that there's no way that he could have. That's what really struck me about it, is like the fire proximity suit. He didn't say he was wearing like a fireman costume or something. Like that's what you call that. And so for him to be able to recall that language like that, right? When they use the adult language, that's when it really hits with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is definitely a common theme throughout a lot of the stories that I was reading. Is that like that almost jargon, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
language, like you said, language that they shouldn't be able to just come up with on their own. You know,
Right. Right. Yeah.
that's
So
wild.
that's my story. I like that story. Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild. I didn't. So I didn't write this one down. It kind of reminds me of the one that you were talking about. There was this kid who, oh, yeah, get your mom on the line. I'm gonna give her a piece of my mind, Dave Thomas. Please let me back inside the house.
She's me in the house.
so, so there was a story of a kid. I forget his name, but when he was 2 years old, he started talking about Pam, and he would like call his dolls Pam and talk about Pam. And his mom was like, "What?" Like, okay, whatever. And then when he was 4, he started talking about how he used to be Pam, and that he, did he actually say he lived in Chicago? Yeah, I think he
This
said,
is the story. This is exactly the story.
yeah, that he used
Yeah.
to live in Chicago, and that the building got hot, and he jumped out a window.
Yep.
And then the mom like took those details and did a Google search and found a story of. Do you have it in front of you?
Yes, Pamela Robinson. Yeah. Like this is
Yeah,
exactly the story. This is like what got me like super into this.
yeah. She was an African American woman, and I think this was like 1971 or something like that. And the apartment building she lived in caught on fire. 19 people died, I believe, including her.
Yep.
And she did. She jumped out of a window, and his mom was like, "Holy shit!"
So it's crazy because that story it goes even further a little bit. It's like yeah, he his favorite toy to play with was a piano when he was a kid, and he used to love listening to Stevie Wonder, and I guess she was like a huge Stevie Wonder a fan as well. And then um oh, well, there was another really cool fact. Yeah, he knew yeah, he knew, and then he took the train. That's right. That's right.
Yes,
And
the
he was like,
train.
and the mom found a picture of this woman and put it in a lineup with other photos, and he was able to point out who he was. I mean, that's there's no way he'd be able to know that.
Right, right. Like that other kid I talked about, Sam. Like he saw the picture of the old man by himself. Was like, "That's me." Saw a picture of the car by itself. That's my car. Saw a picture of his grandfather as a child in a lineup of 27 other children, and was able to say, "That's me." Like, come on, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And like, it's totally possible that all this shit is just like parents making the shit up to like gain some clout or hopefully make some money off of it. But like, some of these details are real fun.
Well, it's like I always say about this stuff: 95 to 99% of it is absolutely made up, and then there's that 1% that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
All right. So hit us with the big one.
I love this one. This one is so fun. Here, share my screen again.
Yep.
This little
And this is Ryan Hammonds. This is definitely him.
This is Ryan Hammonds.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Augustus Gloop.
That haircut is the scariest thing we've talked about. He does look like the lead from Bully the Game Bully. Yeah.
So sad. If you can make money, that's a bonus. It's true. Okay. In 2009, 4-year-old Ryan Hammonds, obviously in this picture, he's a bit older. He's like 10 or 11 in this picture. Began having nightmares about people he had never met and places he'd never been. One night, he woke up grasping his chest, saying that he dreamed that his heart had exploded. His mother, Cindy, began asking him for more details, and over the next few months, Ryan began to describe a past life in Hollywood, California. Ryan told his mother that he had had 3 sons, lived on a street with the name Rock in it, and had a friend named Senator Fives. Cindy decided to do some research and took out books about the golden age of Hollywood from the library and looked through them with Ryan. To her astonishment, he pointed at a picture from the 1932 movie Night After Night and calmly explained that it was him in a past life. And another man in the photo was his friend George.
What?
Yeah, Night After Night. So, starring George Raft and fucking Mae West, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the person that he was saying that he was, and I don't know which one of these two is George. I think one of them is. I don't know which one.
Could be any of the 5 of them, actually, really, right?
Well, George, well, I don't remember. I mean, one of them definitely is this guy, George Raft.
Right,
But
that's
I
what I
don't.
mean.
Yeah,
We don't know
this
who.
one, yeah.
That's our guy, though.
This is our guy. So the man Ryan pointed to in the photograph was Martin, also known by Marty, Martin, a Hollywood agent who died in 1964. And sure enough, the other man in the photograph was film star George Raft. Cindy contacted a child psychologist specializing in research about reincarnation, Jim Tucker, who comes up over and over again in these stories, at least the ones in the United States, who interviewed the boy and said he was able to accurately describe 55 details about Martin's life. The psychologist contacted Martin's daughter, who was still alive, who confirmed that he had 3 sons, lived on North Roxbury Drive, and had met with New York Senator Irving Ives. So Senator Fives, Senator Ives. But Ryan got one detail wrong, or so they thought. Ryan said that Martin had died at 61 years old. But when they looked it up, his death certificate said 59. However, upon further investigation, it was discovered that the age on the death certificate was incorrect. Martin had, in fact, died at 61 years old. Tucker arranged a meeting with Martin's daughter. Ryan was shy and mostly hid behind his mother's back. He said that his daughter's energy had changed and that, quote, I don't want to go back to Hollywood. I always want to keep this family.
So that's different. That's different than the Nazid who was like, I don't want to keep the family. I want to go back.
But I guess so. This Jim Tucker guy, who's like done a lot of interviews with these types of kids, has said that happens. That when they meet people from the new family, from the old family, that they realize that like things have changed and that it kind of like disillusions them or like makes them dissociate from it a little bit.
Again, though, very different than the kid in Beirut.
Right. Weird, right? Yeah. So I love this one that she's like, she took out a bunch of books from the library and is just like looking at pictures with him. And then all of a sudden one day he's like, hey, that's me. Oh, look, that's my friend George. And like, yep, that's them. And then they call the daughter and she like, oh, right. I didn't even say that part. Yeah, he died of a heart attack, which is why he had that nightmare about his heart exploding. Right. Yeah. He died of a heart attack. I forgot to fucking mention that part. I didn't even put it in the script.
I just assumed that was what was the case.
Yeah. So, wild stuff. I don't know. What do you think about all this, Ben? I mean, you already said, 95 to 99% you think is probably made up, and the rest of it is.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being skeptical about anything, I want to know more about this Jim, whoever dude, who has talked to a bunch of these kids. And I'm like, are you planning these ideas, or like, I know he's not, but like, you know what I mean? Like, is it?
Well, so when I looked at the Nazi, I'll done off one, and there's the guy from Iceland who did like the 18-page thing, and it shows like questions that they had asked and how the kid answered, and some of the questions were like, did we go for ice cream on a Friday in September? And he says yes. And they're like, oh my God, that's correct. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like some of the questions are like, but then there's the one about the gun that's like, how the fuck did this kid know that? You know what I mean? And how did he find the cache of weapons? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Right?
That really gets me. Yeah. And how did he know it was a fire suppression suit?
Right. So I do think that like some stuff totally could be people leading the kid, and kids just have a wild imagination, and maybe that kid, maybe a firefighter came into school that week and was like, this is my fire suppression suit or whatever it is, my fire proximity suit. And he was like, oh, that's cool. And then he starts making shit up at home. It's totally possible.
100%.
But like most of these things we talk about, although it's totally possible and like probably likely that it's fake, I want it to be real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to me, what does feel real is that it does follow that pattern, right? It's not like there's, it's not like Shirley MacLaine, right? Being like, I've lived 15 lives and I remember all of them, and like it's much more organic and also following this pattern, which like to me lends it credence.
Yeah. And that's totally true. As I was reading through these, like I said, there's definitely a very clear pattern of they start sometime between 18 and 24 months. They don't really give a lot of details until they're like 3 or 4. And then by the time they're like 5, 6, 7, they don't really want to talk about it anymore because they've gotten over it and they're like totally assimilated into their new life, I
mean, we'll have to do another episode on this too, because it's very similar to like imaginary friends that people have, that kids have.
Yeah, and sometimes
and how
it's like
those end at a certain time too.
That's true. Yeah, and that sometimes those imaginary friends have a weird similarity to like someone who died. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A ghost or some shit. And then, as someone was saying, it might have been King Senior. Somebody was talking about near-death experiences. That shit's also crazy. Like, there's stuff where someone's like, they're having surgery and they have like the tape over their eyes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They're like laid out on the table and they flatline and they like leave their body and they're like floating above the table and like the doctors are talking to each other and like, oh shit. And then they get like pulled back in, and then their heart starts and they pull back into their body and they're able to like recount details of like, how the surgeon was like moving his hands and like specific sentences that people said that like he shouldn't, that you should not be able.
I've got a crazy story. This is a little off topic, but where it's on topic, I'm going to go for it really quickly.
Okay.
Allison, King Senior, let us know what your prank was too. I want to find out what that was.
Oh yeah.
This is a crazy story. I'm trying to. I'm just looking up a date really quickly.
Yeah, no problem.
So yeah. So it was in 2004, and this is my friend Kevin. His uncle, who Kevin is in his 50s. His uncle was in his 80s at the time. This is in 2004 again, and he went into a coma. And he was in a coma, and he was in a coma for like a week and a half, and he came out of the coma, and Kevin had finally went back in to see him, and they were talking, and he said it was a really crazy thing, Kevin. I it's just like they said. There was a light, and I followed the light, and I felt a very peaceful, calming thing. He's like, and I all of a sudden it was not peaceful, and it felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. And I looked up, and he said, and all I could see laid out in front of me, as far as I could see, were people standing knee deep in water. And then I got sucked back to my thing, and Kevin freaked his fucking shit out. And I'm sure Kevin's just like putting stuff together and whatever. But 2004, while his uncle was in his coma, that's when the tsunami in Thailand happened. And
Wow.
it happened while he was in a coma. That he wouldn't be able to know about that unless he unless his brain, which is supposedly maybe dead, heard it. But yeah, he saw thousands of people standing knee deep in water.
That's wild.
And then he came back.
That's just fun.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
man.
And he didn't know that was weird, like until Kevin was just like, "What the fuck?"
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows? There's all the science around how, like, when you're dying, your brain is trying to keep you alive, right? Like, that is our prime directive, is to stay alive and procreate, right? Like, the number one thing our body is designed to do is live, right? And so your brain's like starts like shooting, firing off all kinds of shit, trying to like make things work, and so that's how they explain, like your life flashing before your eyes and near-death experiences and that kind of stuff. But so I read this crazy fucking thing about this woman, a scientist who she did research about stroke victims, and then she had a fucking stroke. And she was able to like recount her experience of having the stroke and trying to recover from the stroke, and the way she recounted it is that in her mind, she was right there. She was totally there, but her body would not do the things that she wanted it to do. And that the number one thing that she wanted to do was rest. But like her family like was coming in and out and like talking to her and like reading to her, and she was like, no. You know what I mean? Like, I need to rest. You know what I mean? Like my brain just needs to heal, So interesting. So wild.
That's crazy. That's
crazy. I know. It is crazy.
King Senior, that's really funny. I'll put it up for everybody. Take a logic course. I snuck in the kitchen. Listen to her multiple choice letter and then repeat it to her.
That's hilarious.
I did that sort of the same, but not really. But on the way one time to a party where like somebody had rented, that was like a Mike Tyson fight or something. For some reason, it was on tape delay, and we heard who won the fight like on the way over. So I was like, "That's bummed. I'm just going to keep it to myself." But then there was this like really loudmouth guy there wanting to bet people, and he was kind of an asshole. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll bet you all know the exact. I know the exact fucking. I made it sound like I was going to pick the round, like, and I fucking nailed it. And then I told him afterwards, but like, he was just like, "What?"
Oh, that's fantastic.
I was like, yeah. It was like an hour ago that happened.
Oh, man, that's crazy. That's so crazy. That's wild. Yeah. Man, I totally want to believe in like near-death experiences and like, all that stuff. I like I said, my biggest thing, I want to believe. I'm going to get a poster and I'm going to put it right there. The X-Files poster that says, I want to believe. But I remember, so my father died when I was really young. I was 4 years old. And my Aunt Linda was a born-again Christian and a total fucking asshole. And I remember one time, I think I was I must have been a senior in high school. She came with, her family and whatever for Thanksgiving. And one night, she, like, kept me up super late, like, trying to convert me. And she almost had me because she was like, oh, yes, I remember being in the hospital when your father was dying. And all of a sudden he closed his eyes and he goes, oh, it's beautiful. And in that moment, I knew he was seeing heaven. He was going to heaven. And then he died 2 hours later. I was like, wait. You mean to tell me that he was seeing heaven 2 hours before he died? God damn it, Aunt Linda. You fucking cunt. You're the worst.
That was the drugs, Linda.
Yeah, right? Exactly. That's the drugs. That's the morphine.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes. So, and then eventually she died, and I wish I could have seen the look on her face.
When she saw there was nothing.
Exactly. Although that doesn't work. I think that's the number one thing that gets me.
those people, the people who like say that they're Christians and then they totally don't act in a Christian way at all. I wish that like there was a moment where they get to realize that it's like that they're an asshole and they're not getting into heaven. But it, you know, in my opinion, I don't think that happens. I don't think it exists. It's too bad.
Well, it's like all the people who think that they're gonna get like virgins in the afterlife if
Yeah,
they do the thing,
exactly.
and then they like kill themselves, and then there's like no 40 virgins. There's nothing. You idiot.
Right. I wish that I got to see the look on their face. You know,
Yeah.
I wish that moment existed, but
It does not. It does not. But crazy stories this week. I really love the idea that, like I said before, that we're all just energy that dissipates but then reforms in new ways, and some of it sticks around, and I think that makes perfect sense to me.
You gotta watch The Egg.
I'm watching it. I'm gonna
Watch The Egg. You're gonna cry and feel hopefully good about humanity.
I can't wait.
It's good stuff.
Wait.
I can't wait to hear your review. You heard it here, folks. Next time on Midnight Creepout, we will get Ben's review of Kurzgesagt's The Egg.
True story.
In fact, the next episode will be, oh my God, Ben.
Yes.
The next episode
Yes.
is on Friday the 13th. Oh my God.
Are we doing killers? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yes. I don't know. Oh, we got to come up with something. Okay. So some of the stuff we talked. Okay. Oh man. So a list I wrote: crop circles, cattle mutilation, simulation theory. I feel like we got to do ghosts though, right? We got to do something real spooky.
Ghosts. Yeah.
Something ghosts. So if you in the audience, if anyone is here besides King Senior 1, but also King Senior 1, obviously, let us know what is the thing that you want us to talk about. You can also drop things. Oh my God, it's a full moon tonight, says King Senior.
Oh,
that's amazing. How exciting. But you can drop it in the Discord. So 2MB Studios, we cannot talk about World of Warcraft. Actually, no, we can't. I was going to say the thing about the pandemic that happened in World of Warcraft, but that's more of a science data analysis thing. That's not creepy. It's not really creepy. But it is really fucking cool. And if you haven't heard about this yet, you got to go check it out. The pandemic that happened.
It is cool.
Yes, the blood plague. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's very interesting. Anyway, 2MB has a Discord that you should jump on. And then you can click on our channel on the Discord, obviously Midnight Creepout, and drop things that you want us to talk about.
You can help shape the show.
Absolutely. It's very fun. Very fun to get involved. Ben, I think it's that time of the night where you start to tell us where else we can see you.
Tuesday nights, I host a show called What's Going On, weekly roundtable where we just talk about all sorts of different stuff. This past week, we talked a lot about food again. We tend to talk about food a lot, which Rachel hates, but that makes it funnier too, honestly. And it's super fun. Yeah, it's just getting a bunch of comedians together and just chatting about life and telling stories and all sorts of fun stuff. So that's Tuesdays at 9. What about you?
Well, I host Simile the Jess Sundays at 7 o'clock right here on 2MB Studios. If you like The Sims or you like our other show, Quarantine Action Wrestling, you should definitely watch my show because I smash the two of them together in a perfect amalgamation of comedy and nonsense and video gaming. It's very fun. I take characters from the wrestling show and make them do stupid things. Sometimes I kill them. Sometimes I turn them into vampires and they suck each other's blood. Sometimes
you're a monster, and it's great.
I am. It's so fun. That's kind of the point. And this week there is a new expansion pack out called Cottage Living. Someone's going to be starting a farm.
What?
I think it's probably going to be Diamond David Thomas and the Governor. I think they're going to be starting a farm. So if you want to see that, you got to show up Sunday at 7 p.m.
Who doesn't want to see that?
Exactly. Also, Dave is in here. Yeah, the farm boy. Oh my god, get the farm boy and the fucking horse and like Zaza Harvest and like make them start a farm. So David's in the chat. He'll kill me if I don't say it. This Thursday, the 29th at 8 p.m., QAW finally returns. Yay! My character, the Slamazon, will be fighting my roommate's character, Claire Bear, for a belt. I'm not going to tell you which one. I can't remember. I don't know if it's a surprise. For a belt. And because my character, the Slamazon, her love interest, Beltina, needs a belt to live in. So if you've been following, maybe you'll finally get a resolution.
Oh, man.
To that storyline.
Epic storyline.
Epic storyline. So come join us. Definitely this Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on 2MB Studios.
Yeah, catch all the other shows on 2MB2. Show 7 nights a week, and there's a lot of fun stuff going on. You can follow and subscribe, and there's also a Patreon at patreon.com/2MB Studios, and a lot of fun stuff there. So check out all the ways you can support the channel. Yeah,
you can subscribe here, but like, does Jeff Bezos really need more dick rockets? Probably not.
No more dick rockets.
Right. Support us through Patreon instead. I think that's the show. So we hope you enjoyed yourselves. We hope you come back on Friday the 13th to hear more spooky stuff. But most of all, we hope you're creeped out.
Bye.
Bye.